This 79-year cover-up of the truth has to end.
A brand new teaser dropped this afternoon, and if you freeze it right around the 25-second mark, you get what looks like our first real glimpse of one of the film's alien beings. And that one tiny image changes the conversation fast, not because it explains everything, actually because it explains almost nothing. It just confirms what Spielberg has been carefully building for months. This movie is not only about secrecy, conspiracy, or government cover-ups. There is something real here, something physical, something that may finally be stepping out of the shadows, because the more I look at Disclosure Day, the more it feels like Spielberg is not trying to sell me a plot. He is trying to sell me an experience. At Cinemake in 2026, he reportedly made it clear that the entire third act has been kept out of the marketing. That is a huge statement in modern blockbuster terms. It means the trailers are not the movie. They are the invitation. Spielberg even said the film will answer some questions while making audiences ask many more. And then he added that all we really need from beginning to end is a seat belt. That is such a Spielberg line, but it also feels like a warning. This is not being sold as a slow-burn art house mystery. It is being sold as a full-scale event that wants to leave people staring at the sky after the credits roll. The teaser itself seems to support that idea. The alien image is quick, almost weaponized in how brief it is, but that is why it works. It gives us evidence without giving us context. And context is everything with a movie like this. Spielberg knows that one creature reveal means nothing unless it is tied to the emotion, fear, and existential weight around it. That is why I think he is playing this so carefully. The real impact may not come from seeing the aliens. It may come from understanding what their existence does to the people who have been hiding the truth, chasing the truth, or living in the shadow of it their whole lives. That brings me to the movie's core mystery. From everything we know so far, Disclosure Day seems to revolve around long-buried government secrets, possible contact with extraterrestrial life, and the question of who gets to control reality once the truth becomes too big to contain. Emily Blunt appears to be playing a meteorologist with a strange link to what is happening. Josh O'Connor plays Daniel, a cybersecurity specialist with access to hidden information and, apparently, a mysterious connection to Blunt's character. And Colin Firth looks like the kind of bureaucratic gatekeeper who would happily hold the whole world in the dark if it meant preserving order for one more day. That dynamic alone is already strong. But then you add the teaser's creature glimpse, the secrecy around the script, and Spielberg's repeated insistence that the movie has to be experienced in full. And suddenly Disclosure Day starts feeling less like another summer sci-fi release and more like a deliberate attempt to restore old-school blockbuster wonder. Not manufactured hype, not just franchise noise. Actual wonder, and that matters because Spielberg has earned the right to play in this exact sandbox. He is not visiting alien territory for the first time. He helped define it. Close Encounters of the Third Kind is still one of the great cinematic stories about contact, awe, and obsession. E.T. turned extraterrestrial life into one of the most emotional relationships ever put on screen. War of the Worlds turned invasion into panic and collapse. So when Spielberg comes back to this subject, I do not look at it as nostalgia. I look at it as a master returning to a conversation he never really finished. That is also why the PG-13 rating is interesting. The MPA classified Disclosure Day PG-13 for action and violence, some bloody images, and strong language. That sounds about right for a Spielberg summer blockbuster, but I actually like that the rating suggests the film is willing to get rougher than a purely family-friendly sci-fi adventure. It tells me the movie is probably aiming for intensity, not softness. Not horror exactly, but enough danger to make the mystery feel costly. Then there is the cast and crew, which honestly looks ridiculous in the best way. David Cope writing from a Spielberg story is already enough to get my attention. Add Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, Colin Firth, Eve Hewson, Coleman Domingo, and Wyatt Russell, and suddenly the acting side is stacked with people who can sell intelligence, fear, and moral conflict without overplaying any of it. Behind the camera, Spielberg is back with key collaborators like Janusz Kaminski and John Williams, which means the film is almost guaranteed to have that signature visual and emotional scale only Spielberg seems able to summon. And the secrecy around all of it only adds fuel. O'Connor described how the script was literally delivered to him by motorcycle and then taken away the next morning while he was in the middle of filming another project. That is the kind of studio paranoia that sounds absurd until you remember who made this movie and what audiences want from it. Of course, everyone wants to know what Spielberg is hiding. Of course, people are desperate to get ahead of the surprise. And that is exactly why protecting the surprise matters. What I also love is the way this whole campaign keeps framing the film as something larger than just aliens are real. The tagline still does a lot of heavy lifting. If someone proved to you that we are not alone, would that terrify you? That is a great hook because it shifts the story away from simple invasion imagery and towards psychological consequence. It is not just about whether they are here. It is about what happens to us if we finally know for sure. That question feels even more effective in 2026 than it might have years ago. We live in a time when conversations around unidentified aerial phenomena, hidden programs, and official disclosures have become much more mainstream. So Disclosure Day is entering theaters at a moment when audiences are already primed to connect science fiction with public anxiety, institutional distrust, and the idea that maybe reality is weirder than we were told. Spielberg clearly understands that. He has apparently said there are people who know exactly what is happening in our skies. And the movie seems built around that tension between mystery and suppressed truth. And then there is that tiny alien shot again. That one frozen frame is doing what great teasers are supposed to do. It is not feeding us. It is baiting us. It is reminding us that the answer is real enough to have a face, but still distant enough to stay terrifying. That is catnip for an audience. It gets people scrubbing through the teaser, comparing stills, arguing over anatomy, and trying to reverse engineer a movie that has gone out of its way to avoid being reverse engineered. So yes, I think this campaign is working. I think the secrecy is helping. I think the restraint is helping. And I think that first alien image is exactly the kind of breadcrumb you drop when you know the full meal is much bigger than the appetizer. Disclosure Day arrives in theaters and IMAX on June 12, 2026, and if Spielberg is really holding the best material back, that may be the best news possible. Because some movies are not supposed to be solved in the trailer. They are supposed to be discovered in the dark. Until then, keep your eyes on the screen and maybe freeze a teaser at 25 seconds one more time.